and that will be on the global conflict and the Kenyan consequences, that is based on the US, Iran and Israel war, as Dr. Edgar Githua will be joining us at 9 a.m. The final conversation on Kenya's biggest conversation today, Monday, the 2nd of March, 2026. What's the situation? What we've gathered so far is the fact that Iran was attacked. The supreme leader, Khamenei, was killed during that attack, but they have retaliated. So far, they have hit, that would be Qatar, they've hit Bahrain and many other countries, as well as attacks on fuel tankers. And what does that mean? We might be seeing fuel prices go high. And where does Kenya fall with that? We know that a Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, has actually sent a warning to Kenyans living outside the country that they need to stay safe, and that has been the situation across the world, with the different diplomatic envoys also sending these warnings to their citizens in the Middle East, as well as if anyone is actually living outside the country, you can tell us how the situation is so that we are able as well to just touch base with you who are listening to us across the world. Welcome to the Situation Room. But before we continue, I just want to go to the proverb of the day. The proverb of the day today is coming from a country known as the CAR, Central Africa Republic, which is a landlocked and resource-rich nation in Central Africa, often ranked among the world's poorest countries due to chronic political instability and conflict. Now, it covers 622,984 square kilometers. Its capital is Bangui. Despite vast reserves of diamond, gold, and uranium, roughly 90% of the population lives in poverty. One asks the question, when you talk about diamond, one of the richest minerals there are in the world, you talk about gold and uranium, which is actually being used in the development of nuclear energy and nuclear weapons in the world. One asks the question, how exactly does this country, why is it regarded as one of the poorest countries in the world? Perhaps a conversation to have. But we go to the proverb that we do get from this country. Now, when a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes. When a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes. This is an opportunity for you, our listeners who are listening to us across the world on our social media platforms, that is YouTube, on our X, on Instagram, to as well as just interpret this proverb for us as we go on, even as our guests come in, and they will be taking an opportunity as stab at interpreting the same as well. But my interpretation is that when you talk about success or rising in status, often makes your flaws more visible to everyone else. So as you climb up the ladder, your flaws are more focused on, and that also calls upon each and every single person to just make sure that even as you climb up the ladder, that you leave a good history behind, so that those who are looking up to you do not point fingers and say, as much as he's climbed up the ladder, alitukanyaga katumaliza. That is my interpretation for now. But remember that our live stream is up on our YouTube, on our Facebook, we talk about on X, and also on Instagram. Be sure to join us there as we have these conversations right here on Kenya's biggest conversation. But even as we start doing that, why don't I salamia everybody who is listening to us this morning? We start if gadget inaweza amua kufanya kazi. But yes, indeed. Carrier Peter, good morning from Mombasa. You become unstoppable when you work on things people can't take away from you. Things like your skills, character, habits, mindset, and attitude. I agree with you, Peter. And Leo, hello, Princess Ndundu is not here. Mimi ndio niko leo, and Aseto niko salama sana. The two-paper tiger that thrives on war martyred Khamenei, but that gamble never worked. The successor is more radical, and they won't control its oil reserves that easily. That's the conversation that we shall be having a little bit later, the final conversation on Kenya's biggest conversation. As we just look at the attack on Iran, why exactly has that been? We know for a fact that they were supposed to have discussions and negotiations in Geneva. Those talks have not started, did not get to see the light of day, because then again, that attack on Israel, or that attack on Iran, I beg your pardon, was a sin. Don Saba, Ndu and Aseto, good morning. Good morning to you. Ndu, ask Aseto. I will ask myself today, does he trust our Kenya airspace? Do I trust our Kenya airspace? Yes, I do. Especially when our political CS are meandering to explain any in their ministry. Have coordinates been shared? That's the question. But with regards to our airspace being safe, I trust that our military personnel and everybody who's in charge of that know what it is they're doing. But that notwithstanding, many questions as well that need to be asked. Now, Agutu Ogembo, tuned in. Karibu sana Agutu Ogembo. Joseph Okondo, good morning. Duenda Seto, tuned in from Chuda, Mombasa. Karibu sana Joseph. Good morning from Mombasa. That is Robert Mbogo. Good morning to you. Okot Joffrey, good morning. Listening from Plainsview, Kisumu, Karibu sana. And how is Dala? Hi, today my daughter's birthday. She turns 9 years. Her name is Emma. Please sing for her happy birthday. I'm not going to sing today, but what I'm going to say is I wish your daughter the very best as she continues to thrive in each and every single thing that she does. Baby girl, know that Baba loves you so much, that your family is there to give you the very best. And we right here on Spice FM do wish you the very, very best in life. Happy birthday to you, baby girl. As well as we continue with good morning, Kila Kiumbe. A very sad and gloomy weekend. Lives lost in a chopper crash. Chelsea beaten by just a mere Arsenal club. Tell you what, team ni moja na team ni Arsenali. Arsenali iko juu ya meza. Do with that information what you may. We rule this town, brother. We rule this town. So yes, Arsenal sika team kadogo, and that is Desmond Ortiz, Mwaka Luhimbo. Good morning, Spice family. We are living an extremely precarious times. What we see happening out there calls for our leaders to focus on peace and well-being of people and not optics and lavish life. Yes, indeed. As a leader out there, what is your responsibility to the people that you do lead? Is it just for optics? Do you really get into these spaces to solve? Those are the questions that we do ask. Good morning, Team Spice. Happy new month. That is Fiery Red. Good morning to you, Bob Akoko. Good morning, Ndu and Asato. Tuned in from Kendu Bay and revving up what's hot in the situation room. Usiende mbali. We are here, serving it hot. Moto kama pasi kabisa. And Birha, that name. Greetings from Addis. Happy to be here. What do we make of all the things happening to us as Africans? That's the question. What is our position as Africa with regards to what is happening to the world? As a block of over 50 countries, what is our position? Do we still maintain the position of indifference, that we are here not supporting anybody? But what is our position as a continent with regards to the geopolitics that we do see going on? How will we take advantage of the resources that we do have so that we are at the seat at the table? If not, that we own the seats and the table as well. It's a conversation that is worth having right there. Brian Rono, good morning, Ndu Deno and the entire Spice family. Wish you a wonderful week ahead. Brian Rono, good morning to you. Quick recovery to Ndu. Yes, indeed, quick recovery to her. We shall be touching base with her a little bit later. Rahim Tula Omar, morning from Preston, UK. Middle Eastern crisis, get well soon, Ndu. Get well soon, Ndu. We send our love to you. Good morning, Dennis. What a crazy weekend, both locally and internationally. Let's all stay safe and pray for peace. Yes, if there is anything that the world needs right now, is prayers and peace. Why? Because for the world to continue moving forward, peace must be there. And as a world population, then conversations arrive in terms of what is our position, especially when you see that those in leadership are fighting each other. Do we have a say on that as the world population? And good morning, Aseto. TSR chant. Happy New Week. Tuned in from the waterless city to be of Thika. Please ask Matangi what nonsense is going on in Tiwasco. Blessed day ahead. Nairobi shida ya maji iko. Thika shida ya maji iko. One asks the question, with all this rain that we are seeing across the world, across the country pretty much, right? One asks the question, what are we doing to harness that? How are we saving that water as a resource to be able to provide that to the citizenry, to the people that we do serve? Is it a question of we do not care? Is it a question of waiting to react? Questions abound. One would hope that the leadership get to listen and get to put their boots on the ground and get to work. Now we go to Fulani. Happy New Month, Dennis and Spices. Wishing Princess well. Yes, Princess, get well soon. Zach O'Coke. Hello, Spice family. Minneapolis here. Happy New Month. Condolence to families that lost loved ones in that plane crash. Yes, indeed. It is a plane crash that happened in Nandi County. 6 individuals, including the Member of Parliament, Emurua, Dikirr, Johanna, passed on Saturday. Yes, that was sad to see, but we do hope that the family and friends, tunatuma pole to also the constituency as well as the pilot and the other individuals who passed on in that helicopter crash. And good morning. When Farouk Kibet was busy campaigning for MCs, we were busy speculating why he isn't hanging around Kasongo. Tusipochunga Ruto atarudi. He was ahead of us. Opposition were busy with rallies. That is Christina. Christina, I see you. Now check it. And Erica Ward. Good morning. I said a happy new month, folks. Happy new month to everybody and to you too, Eric. Good morning, Spice FM. How are all of you doing this blessed Monday? Mimi niko salama. Ndu yuko salama. Not 100%, but she is doing well. Everybody in the studio as well. Those that are making this happen wako salama pia and tunashukuru. Good morning, Spice FM. I'm Rashid Huma from Kisumu, Nyahera, Karombo, Dago, Chiro, Koyongich. Yeah, anasema baridi ni nyingi sana, as well as good morning Deno, happy new month Naivasha, Chuko, and everybody else that is Kenyan home, and everybody else who is listening to Nasema Asanti Sana. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. And I want to say good morning to the team out here, EVE, we have JB and everybody else. We have Asha as well, who is in the house this morning, making sure that everything goes on and continues as expected. We take a short commercial break. We will be back with much more right here on Kenya's biggest conversation. Don't go nowhere. When we come back, we'll be looking at the weather, we'll be looking at the traffic, and then the newspaper review in a bit. Good morning. This is the conversation, the standard. The MP who defied Ruto against the grain in a region known for voting as one, and following the man at the top, Emurua Dikirr MP Johanna stood apart. He defied President William Ruto's dominance of a great rift politics and won, driven by the struggle of his people, fiercely independent and unafraid to speak his mind. Ngeno often clashed with the region's political kingpin, not for personal gain, but in defense of his constituents. His sudden death is a blow to the region will not quickly recover from. Now, Patrick Olintutu, who is now governor, says he was deeply devoted to his work, tirelessly serving his constituents and dedication and passion. Moses Wetangula, who is the National Assembly Speaker, a fierce leader who strongly defended the people he represented, a fierce leader who strongly defended the people he represented, whose commitment to development and service was exemplary. That is Johanna Ngeno, who passed on Saturday at around 4 p.m. As that chopper crash happened in Nandi County. Ayatollah killing. Trump opens a can of worms on the world. Now, when an anchor on Iranian state television broke down in tears on live TV while announcing the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the world saw a rare moment of raw emotion from Tehran's tightly controlled media. Her sobbing delivery as she pronounced the long-time leader martyred amid a massive U.S.-Israeli military offensive signaled the shock shaking the Islamic Republic and foreshadowed the painful global repercussions reaping from the Middle East. It is a subject that continues to hit headlines across the world asking itself, what next? How do we move forward from what it is we experience, especially in the Middle East, and the global powers being our front and center in the attacks that we continue to see? Page 2. Artist in limbo as Nakuru's main theatre remains shut a year later. One asks the question, at a time when we were going into campaigns, the government, the Kenya Kwanza team at the time really focused on artists and performers, creative economy. But that this is happening in Nakuru County a year later, one asks the question then, where did that dream go? What happens to those individuals who had a dream, who had hopes of becoming something in the future through using such facilities, but that it has been closed for 1 year? Someone indeed must be sleeping on the job. Now, content creator focuses antics on mental health. We have Elvis Mushila, who has over 4.6 million followers on TikTok and over 1.2 million on Facebook. His videos are watched by people aged from 2 to 8 years across Africa. It is a story that has been highlighted on page 3 of the Standard. Our PSC to county reinstate sacked advocates. The Public Service Commission has ordered the reinstatement of 3 Mombasa County advocates sacked for seeking a better working environment and facilitation allowance. So you're sacking people because they're telling you, Jama, you need to pay us better. You need to ensure that you remunerate us as according to the market rates, and all that you think is good is to send them parking. Supreme Leader Khamenei killed in U.S. strike, Iran state media says. And right here, those are images of citizens of Iran. Pakistan Shia Muslims hold posters of Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to condemn U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran during a protest in Lahore on March 1st. President vows revenge for slain Ayatollah despite Trump threat. It was expected. It was expected that the Iranians would react, they would retaliate as well, because you've killed the supreme leader. What do you expect? Are we staring at World War III? And while at that, then one asks the question, how exactly is the world sitting? How is the world sitting and reacting to this? Are we just going to sit at the back and look at these happen and not call out individuals who are promoting war across the world? What is our stake as a world population with regard to what it is we are seeing? Because like you keep on saying, one life lost is one too many. Because let's not say that the only thing that had to happen is get into war. There's a reason why we have diplomacy. These two countries were supposed to get into negotiations in Geneva this week. They were supposed to go start discussing what happened that they never allowed diplomacy to take effect, that all they saw was needful is to start sending bombs. You know? One has to call out someone from the BS that we continue to see across the world, and one must say enough is enough. U.S. attacks, how Iran's retaliation threatens Kenya's economy and security. You know, what happens is, in such cases, friends of America gets to do what again? Gets to start being attacked by virtue of being friends. Remember that we have a U.S. airbase right here at Manda Bay in Mombasa, and one asks the question: could that be exposing us as a republic? Remember our relations as well with Iran. That also stands there, because we have positioned ourselves as being indifferent. That we do not support what the U.S. is doing, do not support what Iran is doing. We are in the middle, and that has been the position that Africa has taken for a very long time. But as we talk about that, should Africa then wake up and be not a midwife, pretty much have a say, have demands as well, and call on these world powers to stop the nonsense that we see in the world? Because until when will we realize that life is far much important than the powers, than beating your chest with your kahunas and saying that we rule the world? Who told you that you have the right to rule and kill as you expect? We expect that in the coming days we'll see economies across the world and how that will be affected, because we are seized of information that there have been oil tankers that have been attacked as well. And what does that do to the supply of fuel across the world? Because whether you like it or not, we might talk about the fact that we need to go green and everything else, but still fuel and oil business still runs the show. What does that mean to the world as we speak is the conversation that we expect to catch up in the days to come. Kenyans caught in the crossfire of US-Iran war, and here migrant workers and their families back home are facing uncertainty over the safety. Mudavadi has urged Kenyans to remain vigilant and to register with the embassies. You know, this is the time where we expect that the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs would actually stand and say that as a government of Kenya that is responsible of taking care of his people, that we have banned any traveling to the affected countries, especially in the Middle East, in the underlying situation of the war that is there. That this is the time when the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs would be sending toll-free lines where Kenyans living outside the country would be calling to ensure that they are safe, that the embassies, the missions outside the country do know where each and every single Kenyan is, and that they are able to be tracked. We expect that the government as well would be giving us more information with regard to that. But remember, Kenya Airways has actually cancelled all the flights that are going to the Middle East due to the foregoing situation, and we expect that that will continue to be seen, not only just Kenya Airways, but across the world, because as we speak, many airlines have cancelled their flights to the Middle East due to the ongoing situation in those countries. And Ngeno, bold, unapologetic and resolute leader who defied norms. You know, when you talk about Johanna Ngeno, one instant that I remember is that time when police officers went to Narok County and killed almost six, I think it was about 6 people who were fighting to protect their land. And I remember Johanna Ngeno going there and telling police officers, who the hell do you think you are that you would come into our spaces where the people are and that you get to kill them? Who told you that you do have that right? And I remember at that time, actually, him standing firm and telling police officers to leave the scene, that he is a representative of the people and that he would protect the people where it is they are. Remember, he is a member of parliament for Emurua, Dikirr, but as we speak at that moment, he was in a different constituency, he was in a different area, speaking in terms of representing and protecting the people. That's what we call a leadership right there, where if you are a leader, it is not a question of you remember your service to the people because you are a member of parliament for the Republic of Kenya and you're there to represent and to speak on behalf of Kenyans. Johanna Ngeno did his bit. Many will miss him. His constituents, I saw on Saturday as I was doing the news, are distraught. They are in pain following that death, and to the family and friends of Johanna Ngeno, and to the pilot as well, to his assistants who were helping him with running his show at the constituency. Tunasema poleni sana. May God send you, may God be with you. We send you love, we send peace, and we do hope that everything in time you'll be able to live with that, because it is not easy. We cannot sit here and say that we do understand what it is you're going through, but that notwithstanding, we are part of the bigger family, na tunasema poleni sana. Harrowing eyewitness accounts detail fatal helicopter crash, the love-hate union between Ruto and Ngeno as well. Those are on pages 8 and 9 of Kenya's bold newspaper. And dwell on the spot again over loss of 11 billion shillings SHA funds. You see, we talk about 11 billion shillings having been lost as if it's just another amount out there. Tell you what, we live in a country where today if someone loses 1,000 bob, you feel like your life has just stopped. Remember, many also say that 1,000 bob today, once you break that 1,000 bob, there's little you can do with it, right? But still, when you lose 1,000 bob, you feel as if your world has just stopped. Now, think about not 1,000, not 10,000 shillings, not a million bob. Many have not touched a million. But we're talking about 11 billion shillings. Just let me look at what 11 billion shillings can do to alleviate, say, how many hospitals we can do, or what 11 billion shillings can do in the country today. Because we talk about these numbers, we've made it so normal that 11 billion shillings is said, and we never really grapple, we never really put our mind to imagine what exactly 11 billion shillings can do. So what can 11 billion shillings do in Kenya? That is just a question, a random question that I'm just asking out there. Let's see what we'll get. When you talk about 11 billion shillings in the health sector, right, we are able to build and equip modern level 4 and 5 hospitals, about 1.5 billion shillings. So if you're talking about 1 billion shillings, you're talking about 11 level 4 or 5 hospitals fully equipped. We talk about a standard health center cost about 80 to 120 million shillings. So 11 billion shillings could actually do 90 to 130 health centers. So you're talking about level 3, level 2 hospitals that you're talking about. When you go to the education sector, we're talking about we are able to build and equip new primary schools to a tune of 60 to 100 million shillings. So 11 billion shillings could build us 110 to 180 primary schools. Hello? In a country where we have students who are actually going to class under a tree. 11 billion shillings lost. What can it do? Construct 110 to 180 schools, fully equipped schools in the country. We talk about CBC classrooms. You remember grade 10? Hello, grade 10, right? Government of Kenya. One CBC classroom could cost 1 to 1.5 million shillings. When you talk about 11 billion shillings, then it could build 7,000 to 10,000 classrooms. Hello, Government of Kenya, in terms of ensuring that we have 11 billion shillings that is used well. We are able to do what? Ensure that our students have classes in CBC. When you talk about road infrastructure, what can we do with the 11 billion shillings? 1 kilometer of tarmac road, you can construct it for, say, 60 to 100 million shillings, depending on the terrain, right? But 11 billion shillings could do what? Construct 110 to 180 kilometers of tarmac road. Hello, Government of Kenya, in ensuring that we do have roads that actually do work. If we only sealed all the loopholes in ensuring that we as a people get value for the money, get value for the taxes that we as wananchi give you, we are able to get 180 kilometers of tarmac road. And when you talk about rural roads, you're talking about the Maram roads that would enable farmers take their produce to market. 11 billion shillings could do 700 to 1,300 kilometers of rural roads. That is exactly what 11 billion shillings could do. We talk about water projects. We've just been told, there's a listener who's told us today that they do not have water in Thika. Nairobi as well is a problem with regards to water. Remember, Northeastern, as we speak today, there is that massive drought that is happening in that we're experiencing in the country, and in northern part of the worst hit. But what can we do with water projects? Let's just see. One borehole costs 3 million to 7 million shillings. 11 billion shillings could drill, hear these, 1,500 to 3,000 boreholes. Right? We could actually drill those in those areas that do not have water and ensure that they get to have water. And what would, say, drilling all these boreholes in places like Northeastern do? It will ensure that children get to attend school, that livestock do not die, that the people are able to engage in agricultural practices, that they are able to feed themselves, and that we as well give these people the dignity that they do deserve. Hello, 11 billion shillings, that's exactly what can it do. And aside from just drilling all these boreholes, we can actually construct small dams and water ponds. Do you want to know how many? One small dam can cost between 50 to 150 million shillings. If we had 11 billion shillings, we could construct 700 to 200 dams. What could these 200 dams do, especially now that it's raining and we have constructed all these dams? We are able to harness all this water that today, because we do not have these dams, would just flow down all the way to the Indian Ocean. But today, if we had constructed these dams using that 11 billion shillings, the places we're talking about today would be able to use this water during the sunny days. Right? It's not rainy days, during the sunny days when they do not have water, so that they're able to do what? To feed their animals, to irrigate their shambas. They're able to ensure that their children go to school, that they do their dignity is reserved in the country. That is exactly what 11 billion shillings could do. But today as well, we are done what? We are being asked to give 2.7% of our salaries to the government of Kenya to be able to construct affordable housing. But with 11 billion shillings, what exactly are we able to do? Affordable housing. Under the affordable housing program, one housing unit could cost 1.5 million shillings shillings to 3 million shillings. 11 billion shillings could construct 3,500 to 7,000 housing units. As we speak today, the government of Kenya has only constructed around 3,000, and I think I'm on the higher side, 3,000 units. But with 11 billion shillings, then we are able to construct 3,500 to 7,000, depending on the kind of units that we are putting up. That's exactly what 11 billion shillings would do. Hello, going to Singapore. How exactly are we headed to Singapore if we cannot seal all the loopholes in ensuring that we have 11 billion shillings that would get into the Kenyan the Kenyan space and ensure that we get to have all this? When you talk about job creation, I just love 11 billion shillings. Giving 100,000 shillings as startup capital, right? You remember empowerment? Hello, empowerment, right? So here we're talking about a clearly structured way of how we're going to give entrepreneurs, the young people in the country, 100,000 shillings to be able to start their businesses, small businesses. And 11 billion shillings could actually fund, guess how many businesses? 110,000 small businesses. We talk about small businesses, but look at it this way. 100,000 shillings has been given to 110 individuals to start businesses. What does that mean? That means if these individuals get into business, right, they will start paying taxes to the government of Kenya. And by them producing more, for them getting to that is jobs right there, right? So the government doesn't have pressures of producing jobs, because one is also statistics show that one business gets to employ around 2 to 3 people. So when you talk about 110, multiply that by 3, you're talking about 330,000 people who are in the job market. Now you're talking about 330 individuals who are in the market, and the business ecosystem, they sell, they buy, they pay taxes, and the economy is spruced up. The government of Kenya gets to have more from the 11 billion shillings that today ordinarily hatuna. So this is exactly what 11 billion shillings can do to the people of Kenya. But what are we doing? We're stealing this money. The money gets lost. Kenyans are demanding for answers every other new day. But what do we see? The opulence that we get to see on a daily basis. We have a president who is out there every day on top of land cruisers, instead of sitting in his office and ensuring that this 11 billion shillings does not get lost. Perhaps what we need to see is the president who is sending parking individuals who are stealing from Kenya. Because, guys, until that time when we take the fight against graft seriously, then we are not moving anywhere. We would say that EACC needs to investigate. We know that all these, we talk about the Auditor General doing her stellar job in terms of bringing all these things to form. Fine, we'll do all that. But who will take the political responsibility? Because if I, as Dennis Aseto, right, I've given you a job to be a cabinet secretary for health, and in your department you've lost 11 billion shillings, I'm sorry, I got nothing to do with you. Utaenda home asubuhi na mapema. And not just going home, I will suspend you, your accounts will be suspended, investigations will start, and everybody in that chain will have to go home. That is exactly what Kenyans are asking for today. You know why? Because in a country where losing 1,000 shillings is so painful, it should be equally extremely painful for the government of Kenya to lose 11 billion shillings. We need to stand up and we must say no. It's not a question of investigations. No, we already know 11 billion shillings is lost. People must go. 100 billion shillings more needed for funding basic education. Budget gaps may hinder proper delivery of programs including school capitation. PS Julius Bitok defends 245.9 billion shillings budget as some key projects are underfunded. So we need 100 billion shillings more to fund education. One asks the question, with over 700 billion shillings that the education ministry has been given to ensure that education in the country is actually funded, what have we done with that money? Because as you speak right now, the grade 10s, I had grade 10s in studio yesterday, right here. And grade 10s told me in studio, Aseto, we don't have textbooks in schools, that we have gone on midterm without textbooks, that we have sat an exam without appropriate textbooks. And you're talking about a national school. I'm not just talking about what one would say schools that do not get funding. I'm talking about a national school. I had almost 200 students in studio on Friday last week, and they told me to my face, Aseto, we do not have textbooks. And they sent me to President William Ruto, and they asked me to tell President William Ruto, what you are doing to us is a disservice, because we are a generation of the future. And in the event that we do not have textbooks that would ensure that our future is good, you are letting us down, Mr. President. That is not me. It's the students who sent me to you. Message imefika, ni sawa. So as we talk about 100 billion shillings more that is needed, one asks the question, can we get a breakdown of how you spent 700 billion shillings? Because today, if we do not have enough capitation, going to schools, we have not spent in terms of ensuring that these schools do have the textbooks that they do deserve, that we do not have infrastructure in schools as expected to ensure that all these students get to be in school. One asks the question, why ask for extra 100 billion shillings if you cannot account for 700 billion shillings that you have been given to ensure that students get to go to class? Swali ni ngumu, maswali ni mengi, but one must answer so that as you ask for 100 billion shillings, you're able to account for 700 billion shillings. Pesa ya mwananchi, as many would say, as politicians would say, hii pesa bwana si ya mama yako. As we say, this pesa ni ya wananchi. We need a clear breakdown and individuals to be held to account on how they've spent the monies that Kenyans have given to them. Omolo warns against political hooliganism, calls for restraint. PS warns against unlawful conduct, political violence and intimidation. A section of leaders from Nyanza had linked him to the resurgence of goons. Here's the thing. PS Interior Raymond Amola has sent a warning to politicians, right? And as he has done that, one asks the question, we've seen politicians, people that he walks around with on a daily basis, people that he can easily just call and tell them, a guy, what you said over the weekend, sipoa. Alternatively, he could sit together with the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, and come up with a way of ensuring that anybody who spews hate is arrested. It is not enough for the principal secretary to tell us, to send warnings to all these politicians. It is not the time to give warnings. It's time to act. Because the more you keep giving warnings, it remains just being that, a warning. We need to start seeing individuals go to prison. People go to court and answer to their utterances. We have NCIC, which is a commission that has been set by the Constitution of Kenya. The reason why that was set up is because the Constitution and the drafters of the same, and Kenyans give powers to NCIC because they recognize what political hate has done to the country before. 2007, 2008, I was in Eldoret. I saw as the periphery of that town was up in flames. And the majority of that has been alluded to the political rhetoric, has been alluded to hate that had been sent to people in the region for a very long time. A time when one would say madoa-doa, and we knew exactly what that meant. We therefore call upon the leadership, we call upon the security operators in the country to stop giving statements. Stop giving statements. Have your boots on the ground. Get out there and work. Ensure that any politician, any Kenyan for that matter, who spews hatred gets to end up in court and serve time. Unless we see this happen and individuals taking responsibility, and this has to start from the highest office in the land. It can't be that the President of the Republic of Kenya today would stand and start calling people, wale majamaa hawana akili, munaona mimi ni mwenda wazimu. If he cannot set the standard, everyone else in the political class would not do it. I am sorry, I am going that way, but we have to call things for what they are. If you're talking about politicians who are sending hate, it has to start from the highest office in the land. Everybody must play within the rules. Nobody is above the law. So, Bwana PS, as you speak, as we hear you, you must as well ensure that your boss as well plays by the rules. Nobody is above the law, not a settle, not the politicians, and definitely not the president. We must all play by the rules. There's a reason why Kenyans voted for this constitution, gave powers to NCIC, and gave powers to individuals to investigate, to prosecute, to take them to court for justice to be given. It is 7 a.m. I'm Dennis Aseto, and now it is the news. Spice up.
22-year-old Josephat regularly visits the